Good afternoon. I'm joined by, fill in, guys. I'm joined by Victor Saunders, my special advisor on violence prevention programs, Chief Smith, Shirley Green, Commissioner of Parks, Recreation, Human Service, and Anthony Hall, who is the manager of our violence prevention programs. Obviously, we're here on a Sunday. I wish it was for better reasons. I'm going to turn it over to the chief in a second and have him brief you on the violence that we've seen in this community, which, by the way, is totally unacceptable, goes without saying, over the last couple of days. This is my 73rd day in office. I've been in office 73 days. In those 73 days, we've taken 124 guns off the street. I've been in office 73 days, and in 73 days, we've taken 124 guns off the street. We have a serious illegal gun problem in our community. We have to address it. Too many people have access to guns. Too many of our young people have access to guns. My first Sunday in office, I talked about a 14-year-old child that was murdered. And today, here I stand, 73 days later, talking about a 17-year-old that was murdered, getting off the school bus. We have lots of tools at our disposal that we will deploy. We are not just going to sit by and let this happen. I stated in my inauguration speech that the loss of any life to a homicide was unacceptable and that we have to value the preciousness of life. The last few days have demonstrated that for many people in this community, that is not the case. We're going to talk about the tools that we will be using at our disposal, but I want to be clear to the community. There is a segment of this community that is going to have to decide if a 17-year-old child dying or a 14-year-old child dying or 4 people being shot at one location is acceptable. I can deploy our Pathways to Peace workers. We have our recreation centers. We have a police department. That alone will not solve this problem. Parents, if your child is on social media doing things that provide a window to how they might behave, you have an obligation to intervene. If you think that your child may have access to a gun, you have an obligation to intervene. This week, we will be continuing our work with the Rochester City School District, which I'll have Vic Saunders talk about. This week, I will be meeting with our federal, state, and local partners, U.S. Attorney's Office, County Sheriff, Rochester Police Department, U.S. Marshal, and other local, state, and federal partners to discuss particularly the flow of illegal guns that continues to flow into this community. We have to do that choke point. Not all of us alone can take care of that. So we have to stop the flow, but we also have to provide opportunities for people to know that there is another path. Now, you can go to the path and you can spend time in the county jail by going this way with the police, or you can decide to be hooked up with a job from Victor or Dr. Green, or mediation from Victor or Dr. Green, or you can go this way. We believe that the best path is the preventative one, and that is why we want to be able to do that. The other point I'll make before I turn it over to the chief to make comments about the levels, the violence in the last couple of days is that for those who may not know what to do, you want to get out of town. You want to get out of town. You want to get away. Call us. Call these folks. We can remove you from the situation that you are in. 124 guns in 73 days is great work. We should be celebrating that. But unfortunately, it is only the tip of the iceberg Because it seems like for every one we take off the street, another two come in. And we know a bulk of them are not coming from Rochester. They're flowing in here. And we have to find a way to stop that choke point. And I look forward to talking to our partners with that. So what I'm going to turn it over to Chief Smith to provide some comments and information on the last 2 days, the last week, and then I'll have Victor Saunders come up. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. We've had 4 murders in the past 5 days. Most of these, in fact, all of these, we've already done releases on because they're ongoing investigations and sensitive investigations. I really can't give much more detail than what we have already put out in our releases, but I will summarize them briefly. So the first one on March 8th was 25 Peckham Street, around 12:20 a.m. We responded for a shooting. When we arrived, we located a 30-year-old male victim suffering from a gunshot wound to his upper body. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Based on the investigation thus far, we believe the shooting was likely the result of a robbery or carjacking attempt. The next one was 184 Otis Street, Friday afternoon. About 2:45 p.m., a 17-year-old victim who was coming home from school with 3 of his friends had just gotten off the school bus, and they were walking on the sidewalk on Otis Street. The unknown suspect was walking the other direction on Otis Street when the suspect opened fire. The victim was struck one time in the upper body and was pronounced at the scene. The 17-year-old victim who was walking home from school. Last night at approximately 1:50 a.m., we responded to the 400 block of State Street for the report of a male shot. Prior to our arrival, we had some additional information that multiple people had been shot. On scene, we actually located 4 victims. 2 of those victims have since succumbed to their injuries. Most of these violent crimes, and all violent crimes in the city of Rochester, are acts of violence between people who have some sort of previous association with each other. We know that in most of these tragedies, someone knew what was going on, and had they reached out, it's quite possible that an intervention could have taken place. Our research has shown that in 2022, nearly 100% of the shots fired in the city of Rochester have occurred in just 11% of our street segments. Very small area. We are targeting these violence micro-hotspots utilizing GIVE, which is our Gun-Involved Violence Elimination Program. The program combines law enforcement resources from the RPD, New York State Department of Criminal Justice Services, the New York State Police, New York State Parole, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Monroe County District Attorney's Office, and Monroe County Probation. It is evidence-based and data-driven to target violent areas and known violent offenders in our community. I also realize the negative stigma attached to cooperating with law enforcement. However, in our community, we are fortunate to have numerous social violence prevention agencies to help people peacefully resolve conflict before it turns deadly. Agencies such as Pathways to Peace, SNUG, Save Our Youth, Rise Up Rochester, and the Center for Dispute Settlement are just a few of the many organizations that are available to help the citizens of Rochester. And we encourage anyone with information regarding feuds or potential feuds to reach out to these agencies before it's too late. The community needs to come together to end these senseless acts of violence. Most frequently, by the time the police department is involved, it is too late. Since the senseless murder on Tuesday, the Rochester Police Department has arrested 11 people for firearms-related offenses, just since Tuesday. This includes the arrest of a 15-year-old child for shooting and critically injuring another 15-year-old child in January. We will continue to investigate all acts of violence in the city of Rochester, and we continue to ask the community for assistance in holding these violent offenders accountable once we have introduced them into the criminal justice system. Thank you.
Thank you. I will have Victor Saunders come up and talk about some of our work with the schools that we will be doing. He will talk about talk about that. I've been in touch with the superintendent of schools to make sure that we provide any support that she may need from a violence prevention standpoint, and I'll be speaking with her again tomorrow. Mr. Saunders.
We are currently a city in mourning. As the chief stated, the volatile issues of violence that we've had to deal with this week and affected so many as young as 17 years old and as old as 50 years old. We have families that are truly traumatized this week. We are dealing with a segment of our community that's showing total disregard for public safety, lack of empathy, and spiritual bankruptcy. The trauma that you must have had to endure to feel the need to carry and discharge a firearm indiscriminately at a person or an occupied dwelling, we struggle to understand. But we stand up here today offering assistance for you to turn in your guns, ask for assistance. Let us allow you to do something different than picking up a firearm to handle disputes and things of that nature. This is a total community problem. The fact that it means we all have a part to play to make our city safer. Put your guns down. Put your guns down. Let safe spaces exist where your own brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, aunties, uncles, moms, and dads are not in danger. Please stop shooting at occupied dwellings, homes with children and grandparents in them. That does not make you a G. Please stop. Families we have to address are relatives who we know are living this way. Please be more aware of the actions of individuals you might have living in your home and the danger you and your loved ones might currently be in due to others' violence and affiliations. Please try and converse with individuals within your household that you feel might be on the fence about being involved in negative behaviors that could lend to owning a gun, carrying a gun, or being around people who are owning, carrying, and discharging firearms within the community. We understand that we have an entire call to action to our entire community to reach out to those who need intervention. If you're in an ongoing dispute with a rival faction, it does not need to end in gunfire and death. An interpersonal conflict does not need to end in gunfire or death. There are resources available. We have resources available within our community to assist in avoiding violence and homicide as an outcome for our problems. The numbers that you can call that will answer your call, 585-428-6339, that is the Pathways number. The Office of the Manager of Outreach for the City of Rochester, 585-314-8666. Please call us and think before you pick up a firearm. That's all we ask. And believe that we still have places that can remain safe if you allow them to be. Thank you.
Under Vic's leadership, we have committed to providing the city school district with 11 pathways to peace workers to work hand in hand with our schools. When you have this many young folks involved in these types of behaviors, lots of it flows in schools. But there's also the other end, and you guys know that I've said that we need to make sure that our young people are working so hard that they won't have time to get in trouble. We have to provide them opportunity. Now, we're not going to tolerate folks shooting up houses and all these other things. That's why I showed the numbers about how many guns we got off the street, because we're going to do both. We are not going to handle or tolerate folks going and shooting up guns and all those things. We're going to use every tool in our disposal to get these guns off the street, including holding our federal partners to the fire to help us stop this iron pipeline of illegal guns that are coming up and making their way into Rochester. But we can't get them all. We can't get them all. But 124 is a good number. We got a long way to go, but we need help with that. But in terms of jobs, opportunity, Our Summer of Opportunity, our Summer of Opportunity program is an opportunity for young people to get meaningful jobs and employment so they won't have to choose the streets for problems. Imagine if that 15-year-old knew that he could go into this program. There is another way, and it doesn't have to be violent. So I want Dr. Shirley Green to just touch on our jobs program. I've committed to this. I've said this from day one, that jobs for young people and opportunities for young people are going to be something that we are going to make available. We don't want there to be any excuses for there not being any positive opportunities for our young people to be able to take advantage of. So I want Dr. Green to just come and talk about the Summer of Opportunity program, and also our R centers that are places for our young people to go where they can engage in positive structured activity. We're going to pump more resources into that into those positive programs because we think that's a way to stop a lot of the violence. Prevention. And we're going to focus a lot on prevention. We're going to do prevention, but we're also not going to tolerate lawlessness on our streets. So Dr. Green, if you can just talk a little bit about the Summer of Opportunity program and the work of the R centers, and then we'll take your questions.
Good evening. As the mayor said, we have a Summer of Opportunity program, which is for students ages 14 to 20. We're looking to employ at least 600 students this summer. There's an application process that closes on March 26. If you need help with going through that process, we've reached out to school counselors who can help the young people sign up. We also have a team in the Department of Recreation and Human Services that's going out to the schools to help young people get signed up for Summer of Opportunities jobs. We're working in tandem with Victor Saunders to make sure there's opportunities to work with those on probation as well to get jobs this summer. And as the mayor said, we want to make sure our young people have opportunities. In our R centers, we will have a plethora of programs and activities that can keep you in meaningful, engaged activities throughout the year. Thank you.
Thank you. And for those folks who may not be youth, but you're coming home from doing a bid, call us. We have job opportunities where we can help you get placed. We're looking at the young population, but also the adult population. We want to make sure that people understand that there are more than the streets. So with that, I will take some questions. And if you have questions about specifics about the cases, I'll let the chief address those, and then I'll try to answer the ones that I can. Yes?
Thank you.
Mr. Love.
My question is for Chief Smith, actually. Sir, when it comes to the investigations of the guns recovered, have you guys specifically found evidence that it comes from this so-called iron pipeline that is from out of state? When you recover these guns, especially if they're in the hands of teenagers, what specifically do you find that shows they're either stolen and also from out of state? How does that all work and look with how they're coming into Rochester?
So with the help of our federal partners, we've recently been able to more effectively track guns coming into Rochester. So, I can tell you there are certain states where gun laws are looser, where we know they're coming in from. Some down south, some such as Ohio is another big supplier. We recover a crime gun. A lot of times we're able to then analyze that gun and go back to other shots fired incidents and correlate that gun was used in a shots fired at location A, a shots fired at location B, and unfortunately sometimes a murder that occurred somewhere else in the city of Rochester. Large percentage of our guns, last I had the numbers, still come from New York State, stolen from legitimate gun owners. So I can't stress enough that if you're a legal gun owner in the state, it is also incumbent on you to secure your weapons. Don't leave them in your cars. Don't leave them out in your house. Purchase a gun safe, purchase trigger locks, and be a responsible gun owner.
So specifically, though, how does a gun that was manufactured or sold in Ohio or down south, how does it end up here? Is it a black market that you guys are on to, or people just traveling?
Yes, exactly. People will go to the other states and purchase them and then bring them into New York and resell them.
Is there anything that might be done differently at this point to obtain these guns now that Mayor Evans has taken office
Well,
in conjunction with RPD?
Well, the one thing that's going to be different is that we're going to make sure that we collaborate with our state partners, which is why we're meeting with them this week. We're going to make sure that we make it clear that, and they've been very helpful, the ATF and others, that we form strong partnerships with ATFs and other folks on the federal level who are able to handle these guns, as well as folks who can provide also other forms of prosecution, such as the federal level. So we are going to use every single tool we can in our toolbox as it relates to guns. And Alex, just to follow your question, yeah, what happens is somebody drives down to Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, they load up their guns and they drive up the I-95 corridor and bring them here. That's what happens. Simple as that. Simple as that. And they're not legal, they're not going to the county clerk's office, they're not going to Jamie Romeo's office at the county clerk's office and filling out a form and waiting for the judge to get back to them. They're getting their own guns. We have also recovered a couple of ghost guns as well. Yes.
So I was just wondering, are you guys working closely with the other agencies like the Monroe County Sheriff's Office and New York State Police Board to respond
Yes.
to calls on this tonight?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you will see an unprecedented partnership with all of our partners in law enforcement, as the chief mentioned. We have a meeting this week. Every single, from federal to local, sheriffs, state, ATF, marshals, they'll be here at City Hall with a meeting to talk about this issue. We cannot wait. The summer is coming. You see what happened during the wintertime. Imagine when it's 80 degrees outside. It used to be, when it was cold, people would take a break. But folks decided not to take a break. They're continuing this nonsense that ended 2021. They're bringing it into 2022. And we're going to send a message that we don't want it brought into 2022. And we're going to do our preventative approach, and when necessary, we're also going to intervene. Yeah.
So I was just wondering too, though, that's good that you're working with those entities to help out there, but I was wondering too, what do you plan to do? Does this take a toll on the officers as well? Another thing I have to ask you about, what about the bail reform having to do this last year or so?
I'll let the mayor address bail reform. As far as the toll on the officers, yes, as everyone knows, we do have a manpower shortage. We're very excited because we did get permission to give an April exam, which we have coming up, and we've actually had over 300 people apply. So that is good news. However, it takes time to hire and train people. So we are going into the summer with a deficit in patrol. We are looking at some ways that we can make better use of the resources we already have internally to, again, it's in the numbers. We need to be evidence-based and data-driven, and we need to target the known violent offenders because they are responsible for most, if not all, the violence, a very small percentage of people. The other thing we'll be doing is we're putting plans together for the summer, as we always do, to bring in the Monroe County Sheriff's Office to work with us on violence initiatives, and also the New York State Police will be coming in again this summer, as they have historically, to work with us on the violence initiatives.
In terms of your bail reform question, I mean, there's no silver bullets as to why we're seeing high levels of violence. It's all across the country. We like to try to find one thing that will solve it. There's not one thing that will solve it. That's why we're working on the preventative side and the intervention side. You got to be able to do both. There's no single answer or no single silver bullet. Well, I'd tell you one thing we have to do is work collectively to make sure that we stop it.
I have a question.
Yeah. All right, we got 2 more questions, then we're done. Yep.
My question is for you, Doctor. Could you elaborate on this Summer of Opportunity program? You said the application deadline is March 26th. Where can parents go to fill out these applications? Can you explain how the applying process works? And what kind of jobs are these? What are you aiming for to help teenagers, A, get money in their pocket, but B, learn the value of, communities and hard work?
So parents can go to the city's website. There's a link on the website where you can apply for Summer of Opportunity jobs. I will get a phone number to you shortly. But in terms of the types of jobs, we have a variety of jobs. We have jobs that will be here in city government. We have jobs that are in the community. So we're working with a number of businesses to help us provide opportunities for young people. If you're interested in IT, you can work in our IT department. If you're interested in recreation, we have a number of jobs in our recreation centers. So it's across the county. We work in partnership with Rochester Works to help place young people across the county.
We'll take one more question.
I have a question for Victor. Just a chance.
For Mr. Saunders?
Basically, we've been having weekly meetings with the school district, making sure that they have coverage, assisting with their work with dispute and the social emotional issues arising in schools that can lead to disputes. We also have a strong push for the summer of opportunity programs within the school, all the schools across the area, in hopes that we can fill those 600 or so jobs and have a need for more. So in putting the 11 more bodies into the schools with Anthony Hall in control of our deployment, we also hope to be able to address more disputes within the school that have possibly came into the school from the community and vice versa. So in that way, we're going to strengthen our partnership so that we are aware of what's going on before it reaches the school, and so we can have greater control over the situation if it should reach the school building. Also, I wanted to speak about what the mayor stated about the employment aspect of individuals reentering the community from incarceration. We are doing a strong push to assist individuals in pre-release planning for employment and education and training as a way to understand that you don't need to go to the streets in order to do what you need to do to provide for your families. We want to make sure that individuals have an opportunity to be successful in a legal manner, and hopefully be able to let that trickle down and the message trickle down to other young individuals that that isn't the way to live, that the way to live is to offer yourself an opportunity to do something that you can respect yourself for, get paid for, and avoid going to the penitentiary or the cemetery over money.
And Dr. Green can provide for you, Mr. Love, the number for Summer of Opportunity.
So the phone number to call is 585-428-6366. You can also go to www.rocsummeryouth.com to apply for the jobs.
And again, I just want to reiterate 428-6339, 428-6339, 314-8666 to get in touch with these folks over in our Pathways to Peace. And if you can't remember those numbers, always, you know what the easy ones are, 3311. I want to say that I want to thank you all for coming out on Sunday. And I'll just end with this. You know, people often ask, what's the mayor going to do? Oh, I can't wait to see what he's going to do about violence. And the staff smiles because I always say, it's not what I'm going to do, it's what we are going to do. This entire community has a responsibility. Parents, students, larger community, broader community, we all have a responsibility to make sure that we work to keep our community safe. And all the answers are not going to come from City Hall. They're going to come from the community working together to put a stop to this nonsense, to this violence, to this fratricide that we're seeing in our community. And that's how we're going to be able to see change. So thank you so very much for being here tonight. Greatly appreciate it. Take care. Have a good rest of the Sunday.